Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives of people, colleagues, and friends in my network. So these are great leads that I'll be interviewing on those books. I want to get to those books, whether it's ones that they've read or ones that they've written that provide great value, insight, that have left an impression on them. And the three types of books that I cover in this series are: one, where they're sharing it with me that I haven't read. The second type of book or conversation I have is where we've both read the book, whether specifically for the series or in our previous lives. And then the final category is when I have the author and or publisher on to talk about the message that they want to get out there to the masses. So my guest today is an author, and my guest is Fabienne Lindholm. And Fabienne is a seasoned global learning and development executive with over 3 decades of experience in coaching and motivating teams and individuals. Through her business, Fabienne Lindholm revs up your life. She helps professionals, particularly women, become confident leaders who drive positive change and transformation. As a renowned speaker, facilitator, and professional coach, she has dedicated her career to promoting wellness and education worldwide, sharing her knowledge on management styles, skincare, and well-being. Before venturing into entrepreneurship, Fabienne led the global education department of a cosmetic company where she supported teams and professionals across the globe. With over 30 years of executive management experience in the beauty and wellness industry, she managed spa teams and operations for luxury hotels like the Waldorf Astoria and consulted with HARPO STUDIO in the US. In the past 10 years, she has focused on learning and development, training, and consulting with thousands of individuals, primarily women. Beyond her professional life, Fabienne has a passion for promoting wellness, traveling to 60 countries and lecturing on 4 continents. Her unapologetically bold, optimistic, compassionate, and funny personality has won over audiences worldwide. She has honed her discipline, resilience, and determination as a marathon runner, completing 5 marathons. She's fluent in French and English. Fabienne describes herself as self-made. Fabienne reached out after she had heard about the podcast, the series, what I was trying to do with the series. We talked back and forth. I looked into her background, learned about her background, her book, and anything that has to do with being unapologetic and bold, I think is a great conversation. So I invited her to be on the series. Fabienne, again, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, John, for having me. It's a pleasure. I think there's a lot we can talk about. And thank you for this great bio. I'm like, ooh, who's that? Is it me, really?
It's always funny when yeah, sometimes I read the bio and the person reacts to the bio. Or if you're a guest on a podcast like I've been and they go through your bio, and when somebody else is reading what you've done, what you've achieved, especially if it's over decades, that's got to be remarkable. It's got to be a great sensation to feel.
It does feel good, but it feels like, oh my God, it does like, oh my God, I have been around the way too.
Yeah, but it all leads to the great work that you're doing now. So it all served the purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love it. It's been an amazing journey and it continue to be.
Fabian, when it comes to who you are, read the bio of your experience, but when it comes to who you are today, what are some of the ins and outs? What's the work that you're doing today? What does that look like in the day to day?
So my work today, especially as an entrepreneur, I've touched a lot of different places and different areas, but really, if I have to look at the core and the center of what I do these days is learning and development. For many, many years, I started in this industry, doing more training, mentoring, really working more on hard skill, if we can call that. I don't like to use this hard and soft skill, but just to be a little bit more explicit. And I saw myself really moving into something that was more meaningful and purposeful. And I think developing people, developing myself, developing anyone around me is really the core of who I am right now and what I do. So, really finding the small, intricate elements of learners and helping people to find their style in learning, developing and coaching. These are I'd say, maybe the 3 components of where I really hone in and really figure out what is best for people around. Of course, I love keynote speaking. It's one of the things that's more fun for me. The keynote is kind of a rewarding component, but I see it more as, spreading the seeds or planting the seeds. Because when you do a keynote, even if it's 20, 40 minutes, usually the audience is only going to pick up one little thing, and that's going to be planting the seed for whatever they want to continue. So keynote speaking is more about planting the seeds, and then the rest, it's about fostering, cultivating all of these components.
Uh, and then is it coaching one-on-one? Do you do group coaching? Are there workshops, or is it just the coaching and the keynote speaking? I'm just curious how you
So
get, aside from the ones you shared, if there are any other ones that you utilize to send your message out.
yeah, I think, first of all, coaching can be one-on-one, it can be workshop, that I customize everything depending on the group I have in front of me, the person, the individual. Everyone has their own set of experience and historic, and everyone is an individual, everyone is unique. So it's really important to define how we are going to provide these messages out so that they stick. Because trying to do the same thing over and over with everyone the same cookie cutter doesn't work. It hasn't worked, it will never work, and it's certainly not working anymore. So I
Amen.
think it really is important to customize. So all the workshop, the one-on-one, the team building, the team coaching, it's all really customized individually. So I like to actually consult first. So using a little of the consultant component to really understand where we stand, and then create whatever is going to be best, for that group, for that person. And coaching, for me, a lot of people misunderstand coaching. And when I got into coaching, I had more of an understanding that coaching was mentoring, but it's not. Coaching is really helping people having that introspection to really find their own solutions without really giving out the solutions. So it's like it's magic actually, because it helps people to dig deep into their brain and their being to really find the solution, and a coach is there to help to pull all of this out. Of course, I use some mentoring because I was a trainer for so long, so automatically sometimes the trainer comes back and I have to pull the trainer away and just say, okay, let's just make sure that we are letting people coming up with their own conclusion. So it's really a combination of everything. I've kind of created my own recipe and created my own chocolate cake, if we can say.
I love chocolate cake. Uh, I love
Me
the
too.
fact I love the fact that you use the word magic. I think I've used that a couple times in the past when it comes to talking about coaching and just the result that you can get by even just asking simple questions. These aha moments when their eyes light up, when they kind of step back, when they pause
Yeah.
because they haven't thought about things a certain way, the way that you've laid it out, or they haven't thought about their experiences a certain way, the way you've laid it out and asked them about. um, it's amazing when somebody has that realization about themselves, and that's why I refer to it as magic. So it's amazing that you brought up that word.
Yeah, and it's a magic for me when I even get my coaching session, it's also a magic moment. I love it. And I found that we look at coaching sometimes a little bit too serious when it could be a little bit more casual. And one of the elements I started putting out there is that actually coaching is stress relieving, coming from the wellness industry and coming from the spa concept. We talk about stress relief, we talk about wellness and well-being, right and left. And coaching is a tool that can be used for stress relief, so it doesn't have to be very focused. I had a client of mine the other day, she's like, I have to cancel my session because I've got so much going on and I can't focus on my development. And I said, well, this is the perfect time to have a coaching session. So why don't we relieve the stress? Why don't we
Mm,
untangle what's in your brain? And then maybe the next 2 or 3 sessions, maybe we can look at development, but let's look at what's happening now and let's live in the now. And it has an incredible effect on relieving that stress and especially mental stress.
yeah. Yeah, the funny or great thing, funny and great thing that I've realized about coaching, maybe my style and maybe it is more general to others' experience, is when I realize that it's not just about that person leading. Yes, it's leadership coaching, and when I first started studying it, I thought it was just about coaching them to lead. But now as time goes on, as I speak to more people, as I study more, like you realize for me how much leadership is steeped in a person's humanity, and that the leadership is a residual effect. It's a side effect of who they are as a person, who they want to be as a person. It's what other people see in that person's humanity. For me, that's the way that I see it. So I like that you bring it back to, if you feel stressed out, like now's the time to do it. Now's the time to recenter yourself so that you can be the better leader for everybody that's counting on you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's and it can be so casual. It doesn't have to be complicated. I don't know why
Mm.
we always want to make things complicated. You know, I mean, at the end, coaching
Always.
is fun, and it's like getting. I feel like for me, I compare it as getting a massage for your brain. You know, it
That's true.
removes all of the kinks and the tightness and the things that are really, disconnected. That's when you get a massage, that's what it does, and increase all of this great components and vitality of the physical body. Coaching is a massage for the brain.
I love that. And it's funny, you just mentioned something that I had included in my newsletter. That what I also found is, yeah, even before you get to any of the leadership issues that somebody has, or leadership insights that they want to gain, or leadership muscles they want to build, before you get to the work of building and improving, most of the people that I've worked with, you see a piece come over them when you ask them questions, because most of the time it's like no one's ever asked me that before, or I haven't been able to share this with anybody else. So before you get to any of the leadership work, it's amazing what happens just if you talk to somebody, if you listen to somebody, if you hear somebody's story. That's also blown me away. And I bring that up only because you brought up that it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be fun. It
Mhm.
can be simple. So it's really taught me how much in general we don't listen to each other. So that when you have somebody in front of you that is listening, is participating in that listening experience, that's a relief to them. That's a stress relief to them. And then they can start from there to build up. But it's amazing how that foundation is just hearing someone out. It's that simple. And yeah, it can be fun because you ask them simple questions, and just that response of no one's ever asked me that, or I haven't been able to tell anybody that at all. So it feels good to get it off my chest. It's remarkable how simple it is. So I'm grateful to you for bringing that aspect of it up.
Yeah, I think ultimately I said everyone on this entire planet needs coaching.
Absolutely. Fabienne, when it comes to you, to understand more of who you are today, can you give me a sense of where your career started, the first couple steps, maybe your adolescence, high school, going into college, maybe it was family? What was it that put you on your career path? Even if it didn't lead to now, what were the first starting points? And then if you could walk me from there to how you arrived to what you're doing today, that'd be great.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I have kind of picked the industry that I've been in forever. And it all started, I remember having this conversation with my mom and dad when I was like 14, 15, because being from France, at 16, you can make changes into your professional, if you want to take more of an academic, road or professional road. And because I was a little bit of a rebel, and I wanted to kind of things my own way. I had a conversation with my parents, and they said, "But what do you really want to do?" And the first thing that came to me is like, I want to work with people. I really want to work with people. So that was the first thing. And I didn't know how it was going to be, this whole people thing. I just wanted to be around people. And then, so I had the opportunity, and it's actually in the book. It talks a little bit about, my past and how I get there. But I had the opportunity on the summer job to work at a hair salon. And I was just there to do shampoos. I was just a shampoo girl for the summer. And that started it all for me. Not only I was able to be with people, but I worked with a team that really laid a foundation for me. And I always talk about the first experience in creating belief boxes. I think that once we do something for the first time, if that experience is enjoyable and we feel like we belong, that experience will help us build up the rest of our path. And I was lucky enough to be, because I was 15, to be with a group of people that really cared and that really cared about what I would be doing. So they taught me skills. They helped me with my self confidence. They made me feel good about being there. I was actually the youngest out of the whole team in that place. The owner was very caring and made sure and I had everything I needed to be successful. The clients were wonderful. They gave me praise all the time. And all of this kept building into creating this amazing belief box with all of these tools where I felt confident, I felt could trust people and the environment. And I was blossoming because I felt wanted. I felt like I belonged. And this really created the foundation of where I went from that point on. I didn't stay in the hair industry. I moved into more skincare and then wellness and then massage therapy and many other components because the beautiful part of the cosmetic beauty industry, there's so many level and people can definitely increase and go many different places. But for me, that was the foundation. And I think if I didn't have this amazing experience, if that experience would have been crap, if we can use the right word here, if my experience, if let's say the owner would have made me feel like I'm nothing, if no one
Mm.
wanted to listen to me, or if no one wanted to teach me skills, I probably would have failed. And I probably would have felt like I don't belong. And I probably would have said, I never want to be around people like this again. So I believe creating these first experience really leads to something completely different.
So after you worked in that environment, what was your path to now?
So after I worked in that environment, I went into aesthetic school. So I became an esthetician, which I was, and a massage therapist. So I went into a specific professional environment in France. Got diploma, and I actually got a diploma, which was a global diploma. It helped me to work around the world. I started working with different um, cosmetic company as well as working in spas. And then I moved to the US, and being French, having all this cosmetic experience behind me was really easy for me to have the open door. And I was lucky enough to move into the US in 1990s when the boom of day spa, resort spa,
Mm.
and all of the spas we can find around the world was just really happening. And so I moved to Chicago. I actually moved into the US as an au pair because I needed to learn English. I didn't speak any English. And I was lucky enough to find an opportunity and to grow. And again, it all came down to who I was surrounded. I, of course, brought a lot of my experience and my expertise as being an expert in skincare, but I found a company that was willing to help me grow. And I was able to grow into being a education director for the company, and then a spa director. I ended up being a spa director for 15 location across the Midwest. I was managing 120 people. And so again, that whole sphere helped me to move myself to the next level and to actually teach me leadership. And that's where I got into the components of understanding how to, at that point in the 90s, we managed people.
Mm.
But kind of looking at how we can help to bring people to a specific environment and help them to be the best they can be. So that was going from being a professional, an expert in my skills, to going into management and leadership. And then later on, I went into then teaching and training. And that was the third aspect of my life where I am right now, where I learned to become this person that helps to transfer knowledge. And this is where I started working for skincare company, as becoming the global educator for a skincare company, global director for a skincare company, and creating components, curriculums, programs, way to deliver information to adults and adult learning. So kind of, so I always said I'm self-made, because it kind of went into three different concepts until where I am now as a global learning and development, experts or executive.
How did you go about making the jump to launching your own company?
So this was, I felt like it was more about getting to what I really feel
No,
the world needs.
I like
It's kind of
that.
funny because
I like I always say that I want to have people that want to change the world here. Uh, I've noticed, there can be people that are ambitious. There are people on LinkedIn that are putting stuff out there. It's like, okay, which ones are just doing it because they're going through the motions, and which ones there want to really leave their stamp, leave their mark on the world, and make the world a better place. So, please continue.
Yeah, I always say, and I sometimes sound fun, and like, I know it's cheesy, but I'm gonna say it. My passion is to work to make the world a better place. That really is what I want to do. And I really felt like, I needed to go beyond what was happening actually in the wellness, beauty, cosmetic industry, because in that learning and development sphere is very much about skills and hard skills. It's very much about, yeah, let's develop a little bit people, we can give them a little bit of confidence, we can provide them things where they can learn how to be better at selling. But I felt like it was so restrictive, it was not giving what really we need. And I'm convinced that in the next, and even now it's happening now, I'm convinced that now we need to skill people. Or, I mean, I can't change someone's mindset, but we need to lead people into a new way of attitude, and not only soft skill. And again, I don't like the word of soft skill, but a
Mm.
lot of people use it, and this is what they understand. I want to help people to find new attitudes for what is needed for the next following 25, 30, 50 years. Because with AI, I think AI can replace all sort of busy work that is happening around us. And it's good. I like AI. Of course, we're going to need some regulation. But as it stands, I like AI because it can take away a lot of this busy, data driven work that humans are doing and that they shouldn't be doing. Because what we are meant to do, we are meant to have different attitude so we can create a world where there's a little bit more harmony, more equilibrium. And I think we all need this transformation. So when we look at what's needed out there, it needs resilience. We all need resilience. We need flexibility. We need self-confidence. We need so many components that helps us to bring to the next level. I don't think we need to learn more PowerPoint presentation. I don't think we need to learn more how to write things. I think we need to bring concepts and philosophy so people communicate properly, that they understand each other, they belong together, they lead each other, they guide each other, they always say, and listen to understand. And all of these are not necessarily skills, they are attitudes. And these attitudes needs to be brought out to the light, needs to be experienced, because this is the kind of things you need to experience.
Yeah.
And that was really what I wanted to go on my own. I can still do all of the other things, and I do. When I consult, when I do workshop, we do the factual on the component. But the other mindset or attitude needs to be brought in, and I'm forgetting plenty of them. There's so many more. And that's what I also wrote, Unapologetically Bold. That's also that, and that's the first edition. I know there'll be a second edition. That I actually just co-authored another book that's called Leading from the Heart. And I believe that's what human we all need to do to create a much more balanced humanity. We need to be truly human. We can't be the machines.
Yeah.
And I believe right now it's hard because we do both. We do all of the little work and all of the data things, and we also try to transform into these super humanity, humans.
Fabienne, when it comes to that mindset of you're working corporate, you're working in management, you're working in a global environment, what was it that shifted in your mind, or maybe it was there all along? What was it that shifted in your mind to get to that mindset that you just explained over the last couple of minutes about that need for humanity, about that need for connection to oneself? What was it, a particular moment in your career where you saw that? Was that always there and something kind of woke it up? What was it that's like, okay, I need to get out into the world, share this message because I want people to start thinking with these attitudes? Where did that come from?
So I think it was kind of always there, but I didn't know it was there. And I think as I'm writing the book, that also was an aha moment to say, wait a second, actually, we all need to do this. And we all need to find our ways and, of course, our purpose and our values. And everyone talks about that in the work environment. But the last thing that just happened, a few months back, is that I realized that even though corporations, they all want to move forward into doing something similar, they are so tangled with so many other part that they can't actually do it. And for me, that was the aspect was, and I said to myself, I need to free myself up from this so then I can really go out there and help people. So I think it was more realization on seeing what's happening in the corporate world, seeing what's happening with people in my environment, and seeing how busy everyone was always, and the fact that they were not connecting with each other. How many times I saw the lack of communication. It's not because they didn't have a meeting, it's because they didn't know how to communicate with each other. They didn't know exactly what to say or how to say it. So it was several components. I think it was always there. I think my book was kind of the click, and then from that point on, I was more aware of what needed to be done based on my experience with corporations.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, the next question I always ask is based on everything you shared, what you're doing now, does it make sense from your childhood that this is what you're doing? How do you reconcile that? Like who you were as a kid, as an adolescent, and the work you're doing now. Does that make sense, that connection? Is there a connection?
I think there is a few connection. I mean, of course, there's not like it's not exactly the same, but there's a few connection. When I was younger, I always, again, the wordage is the verbiage is very different, but I remember people saying that I was really bossy, and it was not a question of being bossy. I always liked when I was in the group to kind of lead and give example, help out, teach, seeing how the group could work more efficiently. So I think that was there even when I was a teenager. I also see it in terms of when I was younger, like much younger, a little girl. I have a few experiences. I still remember being able to stand up for myself. Actually, in the book, I talk a little bit about one very specific one of learning to stand up and stay my ground. That's what I believe was right, and I wanted to do it that way. So I think that's also, having the courage and the confidence to stand up for what you believe. And I see that, I'm not saying that I'm always like this. That is not true. It's
Uh,
not true at all. But there, sometimes when I lose my confidence or I don't have the courage or I'm feeling under the weather, sometimes it takes me months before to say, hey, it's time to stand up for yourself, Fabienne. That's time to stand up for your ground. And it doesn't always happen every day. So I think I see some components of wanting to kind of drive the bus somewhere um, where we can create a better humanity. And I come from a small little town in France, 12,000 people living there in the mountains. So being true to roots has always been me. And I see that still in what I do now as authenticity is it's always been there. And that is really from my roots, from the mountains.
Fabian, what does leadership mean to you? How do you define leadership? What does great leadership look like to you? What are your thoughts?
That's a really good question. I actually been pondering on that quite a bit. And I think everyone has a different perspective of what leadership is. And as I'm really thinking about it, for me, leadership is coaching. A good leader is a coach. It's someone that is going to bring out whatever is needed to solve the situation. So I think leadership, a leader should be a coach. I think leadership is you have to be firm, of course, and you have to put vision out there. So clarification and being really clear on what the goals or the objectives of what we're trying to do as a team is super important. So communicating clearly without too many words sometimes that means nothing, to create that clear mindset of, okay, we all going there together. So I think that's important. I think it's showing vulnerability. Leadership is being vulnerable. It's showing that we don't know it all, and to say, I'm sorry, I don't know this. Can someone help me here? I don't understand or I don't know it. Please, help me so I can help you.
Yeah.
So I think leadership is it's being part of a unit. It's
Mhm.
being part of wanting to go to the same place together. It's about supporting each other. It's about, I think, listening to understand, and that's what we learn as a coach is listening to understand, not listening to respond. I think all of this is leadership. So leadership is not only one thing. Leadership is so many, and leadership is being able to adapt, adapt to the people around us. As I mentioned earlier, everyone comes with their own set of belief,
Mm.
own set of experience, own set of what makes them feel good, likes and dislikes. And I think as a leader we need to take all of that into consideration. So that's why I think a leader is a good coach, and that's the core of what a leader is in my mind.
Thank you. Now we can jump into your book. Can you introduce the book, give the full title, and just tell us a little bit about what led up to its writing?
So the book is called Unapologetically Bold. And it is the way it lead up to it for me. It was, I wanted to show that it is possible to achieve something without having this academically driven aspect. Coming from Europe, going to the US, I was really totally kind of flabbergasted on, everyone has to go to college, everyone has to have a university degree. And I felt like it's not for everyone. And I think everyone, and especially in the industry that I come from, there's a very large percentage of women and men that are not necessary college, or university, candidate, and that there's a way to grow and develop yourself into what you want to be, based on being unapologetically bold and not being afraid of going the extra mile. So that's why the subtitle is How to Regain Self-Confidence Using the Transformation Cycle While Climbing the Corporate Ladder. But at the end, this is a book about self-confidence and resilience. That really is, because it's the foundation of all to be able to move on and look at possibility to be self-made.
Was there a trigger moment where you're like, okay, I got to write a book? Like the general idea can always be there. I got to get to a book. It'd be great to write a book. Was there something that stands out as the trigger of like, okay, now I got to get this done. I got to get it out there?
Actually, my friends and people in the industry kept telling me, you gotta write a book. You have to write a book on how you did it. And at first it was like, well, actually, I don't even know. I didn't.
That's
So it
funny.
took
That's
me a while.
amazing. That's amazing where, we're just on cruise control. You're going through life. You're doing the best you can. You're learning, you're working, you're taking lessons from the past. And then somebody asks you, again, the way you referenced the bio before, like it was amazing that you had done all that stuff. It's amazing. And you know this as a coach, like we don't recognize what we've done, how powerful we are, how amazing we are until we stop and sometimes have to write it out, write it down, remember stories. So it's amazing
Yeah,
when you say, I
absolutely.
don't even know how I do it. I have to go back and
And exactly that, that's what happened. And so when I decided to write the book, I said, okay, I can't just write stuff. Not really, it has to be structured. I have to find a way, because that's one of my strengths. I have to say, one of my biggest strengths is I can take complex component and demystify it and put it into a structure that's really easy for people to digest. And so that's what I did. And actually, it happens like in most people during COVID, where I said, okay, how do I structure that? So I started thinking about how I did everything that I did in these three different spheres, how it happened, what was my thought process. And that's when the transformation cycle came along with Regroup, Relive, and Remotion. And to put
So
that
are those the
concept.
three, just to be clear, are those the three spheres you're talking about? Can you just repeat them again?
So regroup, relive, and remotion. So that's the transformation cycle. That's how I've made all my decisions and moved from one area to the other based on this. So the transformation cycle can be used professionally. It can also be used personally. It can be used for small little thing like, I need a new hobby. How am I going to find my new hobby? Or I need a new career. And I think these are the components that I put together. So regroup is all about looking actually in the past. And I know a lot of people say, don't look in the past, move
Hmm.
forward. I totally disagree with that. The path,
Same.
the past has so much information for us to use. And I always say, don't dwell on your negative past, but research, revisit all the positive of your past, everything that you've done in your past that made you happy, joyful, where you felt compelled with other people, anything that's positive, then spend some time researching. The negative, it's there. You know it anyway. There's no point to research it because we remember that more. And but that's with the whole concept of regrouping is yes, revisit your past. Your past. It's so full of treasure in there.
Yeah, we don't give each other or ourselves credit. Um, I forget what it was the other day. I saw something on TV maybe, and it reminded me of an experience that I had in college with friends. And then that reminded me of something else that we did. And then that reminded me of a person that I was introduced to. And that reminded me of this. And you forget all these little details. And I think we get so stuck in where we are today, and we may have a bad day, and maybe that kind of snowballs into something bigger, a bigger feeling. But we forget all the collection of stories, the collection of chapters that we've laid out to now. And yeah, it's in the past. What's done is done, but it's entertaining, and it is revitalizing to go back and just think about all these moments where you didn't know what the future was going to be, and meanwhile there's maybe 30 chapters between that particular moment and where you are now. So it's reinvigorating to go back and really consider how far you've come, not just looking at today, seeing where you are, but even if it's looking at the years. Where was I? What was I doing? Who was I with? Who were my friends? What did I accomplish? What did I give up? um, it's great therapy to go back and really consider what you've done and what you haven't done.
And then looking at the things that we really loved. What is it that we loved? And should we have them again? And that's where it goes into my next step is reliving. So when you love something, and you're teenager, maybe it was nice to have it then, but you don't know if you're going to like it again. So why don't you revisit it or you relive it? You actually
Mm.
put it back into your life. And then you can decide then if you like it or not. And you might just say, well, no, hell no, I don't want to do this again. Or you might say, I really like that. So I think it's reliving the component because we may find some refreshing aspect that we want to integrate in our life now. We will have to tweak it. And I always say, it's like taking your old recipe, you take an old pecan pie recipe, and then you just bring it back into your life now, and then you add a little ginger to it or something that is new, a new ingredient to it. And all of a sudden, it's a new pecan pie and it's fun and that we like it. And I think that's what Relive is about, is taking the joy of the past, bringing them into now, and then seeing if we like it again, if we want it in our life again, or if we don't. And we can make decision based on that if we want to move into a new career or not, because we can be really burned out of something. And I actually experienced that where I felt completely burned out about what I was doing. And then I left it to the side. And then when I relived it, I was like, well, actually, it's not what I was doing that I didn't like. Actually, what I didn't like and the way I was burned out is because of the environment and I was in, not because what I was doing. So if I take what I was doing in the past and put it in this new
Yeah.
environment that is my environment, then it may just come up this beautiful concept. And so reliving it is also very important to see if we want to go into remotion.
I love that. I love that because what stands out most is that so often people give up on something because they're not in the right environment, because they're not around the right people.
Yeah.
Say it's a business they want to go into or they want to launch, or it's a degree that they want to go for. If they're not around the right people that can support that, they kind of give up on it. So it's amazing how much we tolerate toxicity and give up on certain things that we want. We're not living our authentic lives, like much as you said, the authenticity, right? That small town European authenticity. Um, so it's amazing how much we give up. So I never really thought about it the way that you've laid it out, like revisiting something that you wanted from the past and giving it a new flavor, a new approach. You're in a new environment. You have new confidence. You have new resources. You have more time. So there's this treasure trove between what I said of the chapters and what you've said of reliving. There's just this treasure trove of things that you can go back, real treasures that you can explore. I'm kind of going through that now with my kids in terms of sports, music.
Mhm.
Um, they're in soccer. I didn't play organized soccer. I did intramurals, but now I'm more, I love soccer now. So reliving that with them, it's something that I gave up on. I didn't do, but now I'm
Yeah.
practicing alongside, you know, a 45-year-old, overweight man practicing with his sons. Um, but that's amazing. I really didn't think about that. Reliving what you wanted in the past. Maybe the circumstances were the same, and now looking at it through fresh eyes. And that pecan pie example, that's a perfect example. You take something from the past, but you give it a little twist.
Mhm.
I love that.
Exactly. And then once you know, then you feel more confident moving forward. And that's what the step of remotion. So once you're like, oh my God, I love this, I want to do this again, then you decide to make the steps. And that's where what I call remotion is more about, factual things. So let's take, okay, let's create objectives and goals and strategies, and let's have some measurement, and let's, kind of see how we're going to do that. So that's a little bit more, I'd say, business like if it's for a professional, but it's also can be used for personal. I started doing marathon. I was actually 45. My first marathon, I was 45. And
Wow.
I started doing marathon because I did a regroup and a relive, and I realized and I loved running, and I had stopped running, was doing that when I was younger just for
Yeah.
fun. And then
Yeah.
I stopped running because something happened. But one day I decided that I needed a new hobby and I really needed to make sure I love it. And ever since I've run, 5 marathon, I love them. I just run a half marathon last weekend. I'm a runner and I have
Congrats.
become a runner, and I totally love it. It's part of who I am. It has become part of my identity now, and it's wonderful to feel you so connected about something. And of course I had to put strategy because I couldn't go from not running to running for
Oh,
26
absolutely. Yeah,
miles.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
So of course I had to put some strategy down, but at the end the whole remotion was the strategy in making it happen and being disciplined and of course being resilient and so on and so forth to get there. So it's a process, and I think sometimes people want to do things so quickly, and you have to really think through your steps in order to be totally sure in your heart, in your core, this is what you want and who you are.
Yeah, Yeah, that's another example that comes up is just getting healthier now. Like I went to the doctor a year and a half ago. Some numbers were off. They weren't too happy about it. So they wanted to put me on medication. I didn't want to go on medication. So I went like on this health journey for a couple months. Um, and it's amazing how my priorities changed. Like when I was younger, I wasn't really into sports. I was working all the time. Wasn't exercising as much as I should be when I was younger. But now the priorities are different. So now what I stopped in the past, I do it now because the priorities are different. There's the health concern. At the same time, I want to have more energy because my kids are, 8, 5, and 2 years old. So
Yeah.
the priorities are different also when you go from, a 25-year-old to a 45-year-old. It's different eyes, it's different, again, priorities.
Well, and it is the same thing in terms of professional. I just had a friend of mine who's went back into, and she totally talks about the whole living and the whole regrouping aspect because she just went through that, and she was a executive in sales for many many years, and previously 25 or 30 years ago, she was an esthetician, skincare specialist working with people doing treatments at a spa. And she decided that this is what she wants to return doing. And she quit her job as an executive and went back into doing what really is in the core of
Mm.
her identity of being with others. And so I think that's why I found the regroup, the relive, and the remotion in this cycle so valuable. And you can use it anytime. Anytime. You don't have to be. Sometimes I'm in the cycle and then I'm like, okay, I need to go back to regroup really quickly here because I'm in the relive and I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. I need to regroup really quickly. So I think this is what it's so nice is that you know what your steps are, you know you can do them this way, but you know you can also go back and reorganize your step in order to be truly satisfied with the decision that you make.
Fabian, when it comes to your book, there's the three spheres. So I'm assuming they're in the book in that order. But can you give me a
Yep.
sense of the chapters? What's the journey you take the reader on through your book? How did you organize everything aside from the three spheres? How did you lay it out for the reader in chapters?
I really looked at it as using my experience. So throughout the whole book, I use a lot of experience example from whether it was personally or professionally throughout the book. I also added worksheets inside the book. So there are 3 or 4 pages where there's questions to ask yourself at the end of the chapter where you can take notes and write some of the things in there and you can start the process of doing it. So it's a book to read, but it's a book that you can also use as a workbook to start your own journey. And you can start with, again, regroup, relive, and remotion, and you can tie it all in. I do offer an additional workshop, which is a digital workshop where people can expand this much deeper if they wanted to, but they can start planting the seed and starting to think through with the book. So that's how it's laid out. It's very engaging and interactive.
Has there been a particular part of the book that's resonated most with people? Anybody that's given you feedback on the book? Anybody in workshops
Mhm.
where there's a certain section of the book that seems to stand out most?
So it's really funny because everyone has a little bit of a different, but a few things that have come back. The belief box, that's been a big one. Of your first experience, you kind of create that box and you start filling it up with all this information and you keep reusing that, which is part of um, behaviors, human behaviors. That has come up quite a bit. I've had people say to me, "Oh, yeah, I never thought about that. That actually the first experience is really key." And especially when I work with leaders and middle managers, I always say, make sure the first day or the first week you are with someone new. you have to make sure that experience is incredible, because that's what they're going to build everything based on. So that's really important. So the belief box is one of them. The other one is subconscious diversion. I've had a few people coming up to me and say, what do you mean by subconscious diversion? Oh, yeah, I do get that. And subconscious diversions for me is that we always find little things that are actually mindless to do to take us away from the goal. And that's what I call subconscious diversion. And I was actually speaking with an entrepreneur who's working a lot from home. And she was saying, well, you're right. I have to stop wanting to get up and do laundry, or I have to stay focused on my goal. Yes, sure, it's nice to do that. But every time I have a specific goal to achieve today, I need to make sure it's happening and I don't find all these little things to do around me. Stop doing what I'm actually supposed to do. So subconscious diversion is another one that came up quite a bit. So those are the two mostly.
Thank you. That's great. And I'm curious, I always ask the authors that come on, Fabienne, what changed in you in writing this book and getting it out there? Did your ideas evolve at all as you were writing? Was anything reframed in your mind? Did you have aha moments as you were going through the book? How did this book change you?
I think this book made me understand me better. That's for sure. This book made me feel like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. So it actually even built on
I
my
kind of know what I'm
confidence.
doing. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I'm not full of shit. Look at that. That's amazing.
So no, but it really helped me to reframe my identity and to reframe where I wanted to go. Even though all of this has always been there, but it was, it's like it was this ball of things and experience in the box, like when you have a Lego box, you had all this stuff in the Lego box. And then what I did with this is I took all the Lego pieces and I started building component, and now I
Mm,
really have created my, Fabienne Lindholm city,
manual.
and and understanding what's what and how. So really helped me to understand myself better, to understand where I want to go, be clearer with my goals and my purpose. It's also helped me to define a little bit more of my values and reframe them. So, and it kind of brought a new skill for me. It's a writing skill. I'm writing this book in English. My mother tongue is French. And for me, it was a great challenge to do that. But it showed me that I was able to do that. So it also brought a lot of challenging component of pushing myself and trying not to have the imposter syndrome, which I kind of had at the beginning. And I said, you know what, forget about it. I'm going to do it anyway.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that about the imposter syndrome. And before, earlier in the conversation, you had mentioned about when you're not feeling right. Because I always think it's important for coaches to demonstrate their own humanity, their own vulnerability, that you don't always have it together. That I think coaches are the most curious people in the room. I'll die on that hill. But I do like when people do show their humanity and say, listen, even as a coach, I have the values I want to get out there. I have the lessons I want to get out there. This is the work that I do, workshops I put on, facilitate, the books that I put out there. But at the same time, I'm human. I have my days. It's what I do with them and how do I get past them and through them that really, tells my full story. So I appreciate everything you've shared about that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to mention something is that, often we, even as women, we tend to want to be strong, but strong woman cries too, and it's a way of relieving, emotion, and it's okay. And I've had my share of moment of sobbing and crying over things when it wasn't going the way I wanted or when I had failed. And it's okay. It's okay to have these moments of feeling failure, because at the end, the failure is only a perception of our own. Most people don't even see us failing. We only see ourselves.
That's a very
So
good
it's
point.
okay.
That's a very
It's
good point.
okay,
Yeah, because we hold
because
ourselves
we
up to
can,
this internal standard.
yeah.
We don't meet that internal standard. No one else knows about our standard, but we feel it. We feel it. Fabienne, can you tell me? You had mentioned this isn't your only book. The other book was published, or you're working on it?
No, it's actually a co-author. We just published it last week. It's only
Oh,
available in
congrats.
ebook right now on Amazon. It's 21 beauty and wellness executive that have written a book about leading from the heart. And it's about, showing being a heart-centered, being actually a critical value for the future. And it's very down to earth. We've got people that are spa owner or even spa directors and manager trainers and so on, and it's all from the beauty industry. So it's written in a very grounded way. It's very much experience. It's called Leading from the Heart, and it just came out last week.
Oh, congratulations on that. And I ask because my next question is usually what's next for your writing. So not to rush you too much, but are there general areas that you want to focus on when you write in the future, when you put out some books?
Yeah, I think certainly anything that has about leadership and being true and authentic, using the heart is definitely one of the big aspects. I want to do a second edition of Unapologetically Bold. I really do, because even now, after it was published in September last year, and even now, there's so much I want to add to it to give it even more richness to it, to get people to understand more. So I'd like to do a second edition. I have not started, but I think I will probably start in the next few months, and that would be the second book.
Now, is that because of realizations you made after the fact, meaning they came maybe from people that had read the first book, so there were conversations that kind of built up the ideas from the original book? Was it those conversations that kind of fostered ideas for a second edition?
Exactly. The more I talk about with people, and the more I use the transformation cycle with others, the more it makes me think I need to enrich it.
Beautiful. Fabienne, what if you could, obviously I have you here for your book. If there was an invitation for you to come back, which it's open, absolutely, what book would you discuss that's impacted or influenced you, made an impression on you, a book that you've read in your life? Anything
Okay,
stand
so
out?
yes, there's one actually. Absolutely, that's one of the latest book I've read. It's called The Biology of Belief from Bruce Lipton. He's a PhD, and he talks a lot about the concept of how we create our beliefs. And it's an amazing book to understand what really is happening in our brain, but also how in terms of biology, how it works and how it's connected to everything. Is he was actually biology PhD professor at University of Wisconsin, and he created this whole concept, and it's really amazing for anyone to read that. So that's one of my favorite. Love it. I have another one which is more about coaching. It's called the Henka effect. That's about a style of coaching, which I actually used myself. And that's another book I really liked.
Yeah, the biology one that you referenced, it's amazing when we understand what our body's doing to us. You know what I mean? When you read anything about anxiety, depression, stress, it's amazing how understanding what the body's doing at different stages, what it's releasing in terms of hormones, what it's stopping from production. Uh, it's eye opening when we understand what simple thoughts can do to our body makeup. So I'll have to check that one out. Fabienne,
Please do.
in wrapping up, is there anything that you would want to share that I haven't covered or haven't asked about? Anything that you'd want to share with this audience? Anything at all?
No, I think we've covered a lot. I mean, the last thing for me is, as a leader, just, use your heart and use your authenticity. It's so important. And as anyone, as a human being, just, don't be afraid to go to the back to the past and move forward with that. So really, there's so many great things that we can do as human, and we are here to develop humanity, and we are all responsible for it. And I really hope that everyone will take that responsibility.
Absolutely, I agree. I think people don't realize how much of a even a right they have to get better. I think we're very reactive to the environment that we grow up in. Again, we talked about the crowds that you're around and are you with the right people. So even aside from a responsibility, I think it's a right that you have to get better for yourself, to tap into that potential that most of us don't recognize unless somebody helps point it out, which you've done beautifully here. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. It was a pleasure in having this conversation with you. It was fun.
Yeah, as you were sharing about your life, your journey, I just kept nodding because it's similar to mine, but you were just much more articulate about it. So I appreciate that. And again, Fabienne's book is Unapologetically Bold: How to Regain Self-Confidence Using the Transformation Cycle While Climbing the Corporate Ladder. Thank you, Fabienne, again for your time and your insights.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate.
And if there's anything that I might have missed, anything you think I should ask Fabienne, please reach out. Let me know. I'll reach out to her, see what kind of knowledge, insight, additional wisdom I can gain. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.